welcome back to Fireside Knicks with your boys Alex and Ryan. So the Knicks lose their first summer league game yesterday. It was a pretty good game in the end. Jacob Toppin had an opportunity to tie the game with a layup, but missed the layup. Very unfortunate, but he had a pretty good game nonetheless. I think this Knicks team showed some fights, and again, lots of backups here. We're seeing Jacob Toppin and Dwayne Washington and Rokas, Joko Baitas, and we're seeing some guys like Tyler Kolek, and we're gonna talk about him. Really, really good performance. I mean, if you guys saw Tyler Kolek's highlights, I posted an article on Empire Sports Media this morning talking about the three standout players from this game for the Knicks. Kolek looked like he's ready to make a contribution in the NBA this upcoming season. Like, Ryan, I mean, this dude out of Marquette, he's not known for his scoring, not necessarily. He is known for his vision. Absolute playmaker. Some of his passes, and look, I'm not comparing him by any means to Tyrese Halliburton, but the vision he has gives me kind of inklings of it, just kind of reminiscent of Halliburton and what he does on the court and the way he's able to drive to the basket and kick it out. He's able to make these decisions. His brain, you can watch Kolek, he drives to the basket. His peripherals are unbelievable. He had 7 assists, 7 points, and 7 rebounds in this game. 7 rebounds for a shorter guy is definitely good, a little aggression there. So, overall, we'll start with Jacob Toppin, who had, I think he went 8 for 16, shot 50% from the field, was pretty good in this contest. He's a high flyer. He's a guy that can do some good stuff for you. He played 9 games last season for the Knicks, averaged 4.2 points. Obi's brother obviously came in after he was drafted. He has 1 year of experience in the G League. So, Toppin looked pretty good. And then Dwayne Washington, who has 78 NBA career games under his belt, another guy who could be a bench piece reserve roster spot. I don't think he makes it on the roster. I don't even think Toppin's going to make it on the roster. They'll probably stash him in the G League again. But, Ryan, looking at this summer league game, who stood out to you? Obviously, Kolek is the guy I really want to focus on. Was the main factor in this game. He was the only Knick who had a plus/minus of a positive variable there. He had a +9. He was all over the place. Just looked really, really good. I'm really impressed by him early on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to note, when it comes to Tyler Kolek, he had the best plus-minus on the team, as you mentioned, +9, right? The Knicks were a lot better with him on the court. I know the efficiency, 33% from the field, that isn't great, but quite frankly, I don't really care. We're not really, I don't think you're looking at the summer league for necessarily efficiency or points per game stats. You're looking for, the kinds of things that could translate or should translate to the NBA level. And as you mentioned, bringing down rebounds, 7 assists, 7 points, right? He is a high intensity guy, and I think that's very important. A high motor. This is the kind of player that Tom Thibodeau just excels with. You'd think of a Josh Hart, and I kind of want to throw out Josh Hart out here because Josh Hart isn't the most efficient scorer. Josh Hart isn't a prolific scorer. Josh Hart isn't prolific really at anything other than rebounding, right? He is kind of an all around good player, and that's what makes him so awesome in game. That's what makes his on court impact immeasurable. Tyler Kolek kind of gives me that kind of vibe, right? The kind of guy who's just going to be able to not necessarily stuff the stat sheet comes with a negative connotation, but contribute in a myriad of ways. Whether it's hitting some big shots from the perimeter, whether it's creating passing opportunities for his teammates, whether it's going hard towards the glass and bringing down a rebound. This feels like a high-intensity, high-motor player, and you need a lot of those, right? When you're talking about making a deep playoff run, you need guys who are capable of having that high motor. I think makeup as a player, we talk about that when it comes to the NFL draft. That gets talked about a little bit with baseball. I feel like it doesn't get talked enough about with the NBA because some guys need to know they're role players. You know what I mean? Some guys need to be willing to be a role player, and the ability and the willingness to be a role player or to contribute in a system or to contribute as a secondary player or a supplementary player, I think, it makes you better in that role, number one, and number two, it makes a team better, right? There are some players who could average 20 points a game as the best scorer on a bad team. And, maybe Tyler Kolek's capable of scoring 15 on a bad team tonight. But on a really good team, he should be looking to just kind of contribute wherever he can. And he only drew 1 foul, and he picked up 7 in every of the 3 main categories. That's really important to me. He's a high-intensity player. And that, there is kind of that inkling of, a Josh Hart kind of, just dude played with his hair on fire, and I love that.
I mean, look, this summer league team, you watch the Charlotte Hornets, they had Brandon Miller playing yesterday. They had some legitimate NBA players on that team. Almost lost to the Knicks anyway, who basically had their entire G League squad playing and then their second round picks. Rokus, Joko Baitas, I don't think he looked that good. I think that he's probably on his last leg here with the Knicks. He's got some talent. I think that there will be more opportunities for him to kind of build up his stock again. I doubt he makes the roster. I think he goes back to Barcelona this season. Kind of just goes off into the night, and we don't ever see him again. That's kind of how I see it. Daddy though looked pretty solid. This kid's 18. Like, keep in mind, he was playing some really good defense on Brandon Miller. Pacome. I really think that this guy has something special. He's a really solid spot-up shooter, can play some good defense. He's got some really great size at his age. I think just give him time to develop. I think he's a candidate to go overseas and play. I know he wants to play for the Knicks this year and be on the bench. I just don't think the Knicks have the spot for him. Like, how rare is it? And Ryan, I think this is kind of the most interesting thing, right? Like, Daddy was this stash and a stash player that you want to develop over the next 2 years and then maybe make that transition to be kind of a nice shooting guard option for the Knicks. Needs to work on his ball handling. But how rare is it that you draft your second round pick to be an impact piece on your NBA team this upcoming season, but your first round piece is a stash and save for later? Like, how infrequent is that? They had Kolek as a first round draft grade. He ended up dropping to the second round, obviously, and he's had comps. The NBA comped him to Austin Reeves, TJ McConnell, really interesting player that has this upside to be a nice shooter. I mean, he shot like 38%, 37.5% from 3-point range this past season with 9.5 rebounds per game. I mean, he was a former Big East Player of the Year. This is a really talented individual who I think you watch him play. Just, I'm telling you, go watch the clip. I wrote an article this morning. Go check it out. You watch what he did yesterday, and you say to yourself, that is NBA caliber. Like, that is you see that on an NBA court on a nightly basis on some of these teams, these weaker teams that have some young players on them. You see, this is the type of quality you see from a second round pick. He has elite vision. I'm not talking about a guy who's stepping in day one and can pass the ball and move the ball. This guy has elite court vision on day one as a secondary ball handler for a Knicks team that severely lacked a backup point guard last season. Miles McBride, love the guy. He can't be your backup point guard. He can't handle the rock like that. Great defender, great shooter. He's not a ball handler like that. He can be aggressive, he can do that stuff, but his vision is limited. Tyler Kolek, he's the guy you want passing to Miles McBride, who's sitting there wide open in the corner because he's drawing people in to the middle of the court and into the paint with driving the basketball and kicking it out to the wings. The pick and rolls, you're not going to find a better rookie point guard when it comes to operating off of pick and rolls in his vision. He gets those screens at the top of the perimeter, and he wraps around those screens. The wing defenders have to drop in to try and stop him. Otherwise, he's going to get a free run to the basket. They have to collapse in a bit, and he's able to pick these freaking passes out at will. Perfectly placed on a dime. We're not talking about wayward passes. This guy is making pinpoint passes on a dime off the pick and rolls, right? We see Tyrese Halliburton do that on a nightly basis, right? I don't think that people are really understanding how impressive it is to have that type of playmaking ability on day one. He's going to play for this Knicks team, and he's going to play a lot for this Knicks team. When Jalen Brunson is not on the floor, you saw the impact that TJ McConnell had. And look, McConnell's different. He's like a 10-year veteran. The guy has tons of experience. He is a different type of player, but he doesn't have the vision. He's a better defender, doesn't have the vision that Tyler Kolek has right now. I think that that's where he's going to make his impact. You have Mikal Bridges, OG, DiVincenzo. You know who's going to benefit from Kolek the most? Dante DiVincenzo, with open looks, with space to shoot. I guarantee you we're going to see I wouldn't say guarantee because I can never say it for sure, but I really like the combination of Kolek and DiVincenzo off the bench. Kolek is going to draw a lot of attention from backups on opposing teams, rotational guys, and kick the ball out to guys like DiVincenzo, who's coming off the bench now. You talk about Josh Hart. The Knicks now have Josh Hart and Devo coming off the freaking bench. Do you have any idea how awesome that is? Last year we had, Bojan, who was good, was injured and, inconsistent in the playoffs and down the stretch. And then, of course, you had, McBride, who was solid. But DiVincenzo and Josh Hart off the bench is a freaking luxury item, a luxury combination, right? That is a special combo. Kolek is a really good piece to have because Josh Hart's aggressive. He can rebound. You watch Kolek, his left hand, lethal. Guy is such a good finisher with his left hand around the rim. Really good open shooter from perimeter. Had a 3-point shot yesterday that he knocked down when he was wide open. Talk to me a little bit about your perspective on this bench right now. Devo Hart coming off the bench instead of starting. They can obviously start if they need to, but this Knicks team is deeper than I've ever seen in the last decade at least. This is a really special group they've built.
Yeah, you mentioned the shooting, right? The importance of having perimeter help is important because you have DiVincenzo obviously coming off the bench. That's great. That's going to immediately create a lot of gravity. But you kind of worry about, teams just kind of going, all right, just whenever DiVincenzo's the ball, flood him at the perimeter, force him to pass it out, and pray somebody else can do something. And, the Knicks really struggled finding secondary scores last year, and that was with Randall Hurt, obviously, but, not having Bojan who can create his own shot, that does hurt, I think. It does hurt your bench's shot creation. Now, is Tyler Kolek going to immediately come in and be a great shot creator and shot scorer? No. NBA rookies are rarely, excellent players in year one, unless they are, these highly touted, the Wembanyamas, the LeBrons of the world. But can Kolek be a good role player? Can he add to their playmaking? Can he add to their shooting? Can he add to the catch and shoot game? The pick and roll, as you mentioned, yes, and that's important. And I think the best way to kind of describe him is, sure, he is a second round pick, a high second round pick, granted. He's not like he's not the 60th overall pick. But he has an NBA motor, right? Like he is NBA ready in terms of his motor, in terms of the way he, kind of the intensity he plays with. He plays with his hair on fire. And, the Knicks have done a great job of developing those kinds of players and maximizing player value. We talk about Deuce McBride. Deuce McBride was a second round pick. And Deuce McBride is, I think, a really strong bench scoring 3-and-D option, right? Like Deuce McBride is a rotation player, a key rotation player, mind you, on a championship caliber team. He was picked 36th overall as well. Tyler Kolek, we talk about kind of like McBride, his scoring abilities. Could you imagine maybe the leap McBride could take as, kind of that primary scorer, that guy who can maybe learn how to create a shot for himself? Maybe not necessarily for others, but for himself. He averaged around 10 to 11 points a game when he got consistent minutes in the second half of last year after the OG trade. We saw what he did in the postseason. He was electric. He almost sealed the series against Philly in Game 5. Unfortunately, the Knicks kind of collapsed from there. But, Alex, I really like the fit of Kolek and McBride. You have Kolek, who's going to be a 6'3" point guard, a little bit taller than the NBA average. McBride is going to be a little shorter than the shooting guard average, but that's, again, counteracted by having a really tall point guard compared to his height, or compared to his position. Josh Hart is, a smaller power forward, but he plays like he's 7 feet tall. They need a backup center. They do need to bring in a guy, I think, with size. Do not think Precious Achiuwa fits that mold. They need to bring somebody who's 6'11", 7 feet tall, 6'10", somewhere in that range. We talked about Jalen Duren. Could you imagine Jalen Duren, pick and roll, Tyler Kolek? These are your guys, Alex. I feel like this is like a dream come true potentially for you. I feel like that lineup, if you could throw that rotation out there, or maybe it's Walker Kessler, man, they could. That bench unit could be special. And we're talking about a starting lineup that I think they're going to be one of the 2 or 3 best starting lineups in the league. So that's when you start building out a championship team.
Absolutely. Look, if the Knicks walked away this offseason with Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and Jalen Duren. That's my guy. I freaking love Jalen Duren. Give me Walker Kessler, too. I don't give a shit. Give me Jalen Duren, though. 11 rebounds a game, physical, 20 years old, can pass a little bit, can score. The guy runs the floor constantly. He's fast. He can move in transition. He can throw down monster dunks. Pair him with the physicality of Randall. You're gonna be offensive rebounding out of your mind. The Knicks are gonna be offensive rebounding like their life depends on it. They're gonna get so many second opportunities. How do you beat the Celtics? You beat them on the boards. You know what I mean? You have to beat them on the offensive boards. If you can create more opportunities for yourself, you can win the momentum. And you have to be physical to beat guys like Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum is the one that's going to be rebounding. The Kristaps Porzingis, you can box him out, right? 7 feet tall, but Julius Randle's boxing Kristaps Porzingis out. Mitchell Robinson is boxing him out. You need someone to go up against Jason Tatum and win those rebounds. A guy like Jalen Duren can do that. With that being said, off the bench, Devo, one of the best three-point shooters in Knicks history now. Set a record last season for the most three-pointers hit. Josh Hart, the energizer on this team, the guy that steps on the court and immediately elevates the momentum and the momentum and the pace. You look at guys like Kolek, who is a shooter's dream, right? A shooter's freaking dream. Everyone wants to have a guy like that on their team because he steps on the floor and he creates open looks and high percentage shots. Off the bench, I already mentioned Jalen Duren. We haven't mentioned Mitchell Robinson yet, coming off the bench as a backup. A guy who can lock down Joel Embiid in the playoffs, right? This has the potential. And then Miles McBride, who's like an unbelievable shooter, right? This is a team with enough talent to win the championship and win it comfortably, right? If they play to their potential, if they stay healthy, they have the talent to give the Celtics a very hard time, to give any team, the Timberwolves, a very hard time. The 76ers with Paul George. I mean, look, Mitchell Robinson on Joel Embiid, OG Anunoby on Paul George, and then you have, of course, you could double Tyrese Maxey at the top of the perimeter, force him to beat you with his long range shooting, and all you need is, on average, you're gonna have him hit. You're gonna have maybe one great night, like hit that one like 40 point performance game in the playoffs. Otherwise, he was great. He was driving to the basket a lot. Our interior defense was horrible because we had Mitch once he went down, it was obviously really bad, but. His team has enough interior presence. You can't get through these guys in the paint. They're too big. We have too many big players on the wing, too. It's impressive, the depth on this team and the quality you have across the board. I'm very excited for this upcoming season. October cannot come fast enough. Mainly, get some Yankee baseball and some playoff baseball, but then of course the Knicks starting the season red hot would just be icing on the cake, man. I mean, it's going to be really fun. Not to mention football season's in full swing. October is really gearing up to be like my favorite month of the year, and it's not even close. So, guys, always happy to hear your thoughts below. We'll keep breaking down these summer league games as they continue to progress. Any big news, obviously, that comes out from the Knicks camp or any rumors. So happy to give you guys all the information there. As always, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Knicks episode.